Here's your First Warn Weather forecast first, sponsored by Anderson Collision Center. Visit driveanderson.com.
It was an absolutely gorgeous Sunday afternoon. After a little bit of a frosty start, temperatures warmed nicely into the upper 60s and low 70s thanks to a breezy southeasterly wind. Wind speeds have come down just a bit and our temperatures are slowly dropping back. A lot of us now down into the low 60s from 63 degrees in Freeport. Same thing in Rockford, 58 in Rochelle, and 67 our current temperature in Dixon. Mentioned those winds coming down just a bit. Now still from the southeast, anywhere from 5 to 10, at most 15 miles per hour. We are relatively quiet and clear here through this evening, but over time, cloud cover will slowly increase, and that is ahead of our next storm system. That'll bring us a chance for some thunderstorms, especially late in the day Monday. But another warm, windy afternoon as that temperature reaches the 80-degree mark. A look at when we could see some thunderstorms arrive coming up in the First Warn forecast a little later.
Learning our history in an interactive way. A State Line Museum brings World War I to life for community members. Plus, finding new ways to bond with your children. The tradition of trading cards lives on. Hear from one participant on the impact the hobby has on his family. And more construction could be coming to Rockford. The nearly $10 million project being discussed at tomorrow's committee meeting.
Live from Fox 39. This is Eyewitness News at 9.
Good evening, I'm Rian Weil. Thanks for joining us tonight. Community members had the chance to see a small part of what it was like to live during World War I. Over 300 volunteers participated in the reenactment of World War I at Rockford's Midway Village Museum. Attendees got to see dozens of real vehicles from the war, as well as see an immersive experience of how soldiers lived and trained during war. This is something the museum does annually to show visitors what battle was like and learn about history.
We have a great group of reenactors who like to tie in the battle reenactments to actual history that they narrate as it goes on. So they start recreating those scripts, and they've done some great work this year tying into Rockford's Camp Grant, which was built first for World War I itself in 1917. So that's a great time for Rockford's history here.
Frederickson says the museum hosts a similar event for World War II. The Highland Park City Council is set to vote tomorrow on a permanent memorial to the victims of the mass shooting at the July 4th parade back in 2022. The recommendation is to build it at the site of the temporary memorial in the city's Rose Garden and create a smaller acknowledgement at the site of the shooting. 7 people were killed and dozens were injured when the gunman fired 83 rounds in less than a minute. Robert Cremo III began serving 7 life sentences this past week. Members of the Illinois State Senate's Progressive Caucus set out on a bus tour today to connect with residents about their concerns about the Trump administration's looming cuts.
I think about our children that have autism, our folks with disabilities, our students. We have a great program, a Lattice program at UIC that it might be losing cuts, that we have to protect these programs. We have to protect our cultural identity when it comes to our state and to our education system, to our healthcare system, our housing system, and everything that helps working class families.
The lawmakers visited with residents in Chicago, Buffalo Grove, and Joliet. They say they're fighting to offset the impact of the federal government's cuts at the state level. Governor J.B. Pritzker is in New Hampshire tonight, headlining a top Democratic fundraiser. Pritzker is addressing the state's Democratic Party's 100 Club dinner. In the past, it's been a staging ground for future presidential runs. Pritzker's address is expected to focus on what he describes as rising authoritarianism and the need for Democrats to fight back. Last year's keynote speaker was Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. He ended up as the Democrats' VP pick. Canadian candidates for Prime Minister are making a final push before Election Day tomorrow. National surveys suggest Prime Minister Mark Carney's Liberal Party has a narrow lead over Conservative Party leader Poilievre. It's a major reversal from last year when Conservatives had a 20-point lead in national polls. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had been so unpopular he had to step down. But the Liberal Party has regained support as his successor Carney takes on President Trump and his trade war. 11 people are dead and dozens of others injured after a driver rammed a car into a crowd at a street festival in Vancouver, Canada. The incident happened Saturday night during a Filipino community street festival. Video from the scene shows a damaged black SUV and debris scattered on the long stretch of the road. The driver, a 30-year-old man, was taken into custody on the scene. Police say they do not consider it an act of terrorism. Eyewitnesses described what they saw.
It was terrible to see that kind of incident, that situation. It was heartbreaking. I couldn't even imagine that it's actually happening in real life, because normally we see that on like TVs or movies, but when you are in that kind of situation, it was really shocking.
Vancouver Police Department's Major Crime Section is conducting the investigation. Back here in the state line, sports fans had themselves a busy morning trading cards and bonding with their community members. Over 80 tables of sports cards and related collectibles were up for grabs at the Rockford Sports Card Show. Attendees were able to bring their own cards to show for grading submissions. The goal of the day, buy, sell, and trade. One participant describes how much it means to be able to share this hobby with his son.
He started going through my old cards and, give them here, give them there, and then all of a sudden he started collecting. So it's been really good for us as a father-son thing. You always wish you could, do more with your kids because you're so busy all the time. But so this gives us an opportunity to enjoy it, talk to people. I love conversation with people. He's getting into it now, so it's really enjoyable for both of us.
Burton encourages other parents to look at trading as a hobby because he says if you're out for the money, it can get tough. Looking at the week ahead, tomorrow night, this month's Barbershop Talk will be held. These are monthly conversations promoting mental wellness. Hosted by NAMI of Northern Illinois, this month's talk will be exploring life after gang involvement with a focus on healing, growth, and mental health. The goal of these talks is to provide tools and education to barbers and beauticians to promote mental wellness and interrupt violence in homes and the community. The talk will be tomorrow at 502 Seminary Street in Rockford. It begins at 5:30. Also tomorrow night, the City of Rockford committees will meet. On the agenda for the Finance and Personnel meeting is something that may impact drivers. The committee is expected to discuss the reconstruction and resurfacing of North 2nd Street, also known as Illinois 251, from Whitman Street to Snow Avenue. This is an almost $10 million project to redo the streets, sidewalks, and the traffic signals. Coming up next, President Trump will reach 100 days in office this week. His top priorities and comments on the Middle Eastern wars when we return.
After a little bit of a frosty start out there early this morning, temperatures warm nicely with the sunshine. We go even further tomorrow, but some of that warmth could lead to some thunderstorms, especially late in the day Monday. Timing that out and a look at what we could expect coming up in the first warn forecast a little later.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team, with Rianne Weil, Drew Collins, and meteorologist Jordan Wolf.
President Donald Trump's 100th day of his return to the Oval Office is Tuesday, but new polling shows his approval rating among Americans is sinking when it comes to some specific issues. Fox News correspondent Nate Foy has more from New Jersey.
President Donald Trump will mark his 100th day back in office this week, but new polling shows mixed results for his job performance. According to an AP poll, 46% of U.S. adults approve of Trump's approach to immigration, as his handling of the border remains his strongest issue. But a recent Reuters poll finds only 37% of respondents approve of his economic policies, with some saying they fear the possibility of a recession. Trump is in New Jersey Sunday, following his Italy trip, where he paid his respects to Pope Francis. On the sidelines of the funeral, Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke for the first time since their Oval Office blowout.
How did the meeting with Trump go?
Really, we had a productive meeting. I don't want to go to a lot of details.
After the meeting, Trump called out Russian President Vladimir Putin, writing in part, quote, "There was no reason for Putin to be shooting missiles into civilian areas, cities, and towns over the last few days. It makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along." Secretary of State Marco Rubio emphasizes just how critical the upcoming days will be to bring an end to the war.
We have to make a determination about whether this is an endeavor that we want to continue to be involved in, or if it's time to sort of focus on some other issues that are equally, if not more important.
President Trump heads back to Washington, D.C. tonight before going to Michigan on Tuesday to celebrate his 100th day back in office. In Bedminster, New Jersey, Nate Foy, Fox News.
We had a beautiful day here at the state line with sunshine and warmer temperatures. When we come back, Chief Meteorologist Candace King is in to tell us our storm chances for tomorrow. Her full forecast is next.
Now, your first warn weather forecast from Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
I hope you were able to make the most of this weekend. Just a gorgeous weekend. Temperatures yesterday in the low 60s. Today we made it into the upper 60s and low 70s with lots of sunshine. Just a beautiful end here to the last weekend of April. Now those numbers are slowly dropping back as we maintain that mostly clear sky. A live look with our Mercial SkyTrack camera here late this evening up in Beloit. Temperatures are still comfortable and our winds not quite as strong as what they were earlier today, but the winds will pick up tomorrow. So tomorrow will be a windy and warm afternoon. We're down to 58 in Rochelle, 63 in Rockford, 60 in Poplar Grove and DeKalb, and 63 right now in the Pretzel City. Our weather watcher Greg up in Machesney Park, 64, a light southeasterly wind. Dew point temperature currently sits at 38. A beautiful day out in southwest Stevenson County. Our weather watcher Megan had a gusty wind, peak wind right over just a little over 30 miles per hour. 63 the current temperature, but that wind has come down now from the southeast, roughly between 9 and 10. As we go through the night, you will notice cloud cover on the increase. So tomorrow morning starts off with some clouds, but temperatures won't be quite as cold as what we woke up to here this morning. We got down into the low 30s and there was some patchy frost out there. Won't be the case tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, we've got some warmth that moves in, upper 70s, close to 80 degrees, but with some cloud cover early on, there could be an isolated shower or thunderstorm, especially around daybreak tomorrow, just as we get this warm front moving in. And it's once that warm front passes that our winds will pick up. Notice tomorrow morning the winds going up once we hit that noon hour. We're talking 30, maybe 35 mile per hour wind gusts. Those winds will stay breezy and windy throughout much of the afternoon, even continuing into tomorrow night until that cold front comes through. Winds will ease up just a bit, but they do shift around to the west and northwest once we get into Tuesday. There won't be a big drop in temperatures, but it'll feel cooler because we'll go from around 80 down into the upper 60s. Now, one thing we do have to keep an eye on for tomorrow is that chance for severe thunderstorms. So the potential is there. Kind of everything is sitting there. We just need something to gather it together to really get those storms to go. So this is the way it looks here as we go throughout the afternoon. We've got that enhanced risk for most of southern Wisconsin and northwest Illinois, while the risk goes down a little further south and east you get of Rockford. We've got high pressure still in control, but kind of the beginning stages out over the high plains of our next storm system that'll be working through. So you get this initial push of some warm air through the overnight hours. That's where our cloud cover comes in, and you see some of these spotty showers and thunderstorms developing. The best coverage for that will be, I think, northwest of a line from Rockford to Freeport and then back out into Wisconsin. So the coverage isn't going to be anything great going into the day tomorrow. Isolated shower thunderstorm tomorrow morning, and you'd be dealing with hail. Once that warm front passes, our surface warm front, we get capped. So we've got this lid on the environment. How does that lid behave? Does it move as we go into the afternoon, late afternoon and evening, or does it stay put? And that's the big question mark. If it stays put, we likely won't see any thunderstorms until late into the evening. So this would probably be after about 8, 9, 10 o'clock. There would still be a severe risk with that. If we can get some thunderstorms to develop earlier in the day, so let's say about 6, 7 o'clock, we could potentially see that risk heightened for severe weather, and that would include wind, tornadoes, and hail. So tomorrow's definitely a day you want to make sure you're paying attention to the forecast, because even though we're close to it, there's still some question marks that and questions that need to be answered. Once that front passes, temperatures at 68 on Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday are coolest days. Same thing for Friday, and then we dry out. Next weekend looks pretty nice.
All right, thanks, Candace. Well, Drew's in next with sports. The Bears head coach Ben Johnson spoke regarding how the team looks following the draft.
Now sports with Drew Collins.
I am not a Bears fan, but I am a fan of Ben Johnson. And after hearing his press conference today, you might be as well. He spoke today for the first time since the draft, and he sounds intense, determined, and focused to turn the franchise around. The first topic surrounded the bullish offensive firepower the Bears have collected. The Bears are going into spring training with a ton of offense and talent and only so many starting positions. And he was asked how he believes he can best manage the overload of offensive talent to make sure everyone gets a piece of the pie.
About the moment the players got back into the building, call it 3 weeks ago now, it was going to be a competitive environment. There is no depth chart right now. If you want to play, you got to go earn it. I think all we did this weekend was we might have just turned up the notch, just a couple of dials for certain people in the building. Yeah, you're right. We have a lot of weapons. And so how are you going to run your route when you might not be number one in the progression? Okay? How are you going to block for your teammate when he has the ball? Because if you do those things right, then as a coaching staff, we're going to want to get you the ball a little bit more.
Wow. Is anybody else fired up? Obviously, Caleb will be QB1, but here are a list of some of his weapons. The backfields will be split between DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, and rookie Kyle Monungai. Now let's check out the receiver options. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and rookie Luther Burden. And now 2 tight ends to rotate in, Cole Kmet and first-round pick Colston Loveland. Heading into spring camp, this group should bring a ton of competition for the Bears this year. And speaking of competition, Coach LaFleur expects more of that up in Green Bay. This is what he had to say after the draft.
Anytime you add competition to a room, that's a good thing for our football team. So it's going to be a competitive room. We all know that, and I think that's a positive. And our guys got to embrace that competition. And if they attack it the right way, I think collectively we'll continue to improve.
Middle of it.
Phillies and Cubs. The winner takes the series. PCA swipe this one. Goes all the way to the wall. 1 run will score, and PCA will have a stand-up double. Jump into the 8th. Tied up 1-1. Check out this bare-handed toss to snag the double play. Nico and Dansby working the field. Let's go to extras. Alec Boehm had a big game yesterday, and he clutches up again tonight. He gets the sac fly, and the Phillies will go up 3-1 in the 10th inning. Last call for the Cubs, and they just seem to run out of gas at the finish line. The Cubs lose this one 3-1. The White Sox had a chance to take a series dub over the A's. The Sox started the game with the leadoff homer, so they'll take the lead first. But the A's tie it up just a few bats later. Brent Rooker gets under this one, and the White Sox can't seem to make a play on it. Just looks all too familiar to that team last year. That hit brings in a runner to tie it, and he slides safe at home. Luis Robert Jr. has been carrying the boats, and he did more of that today. That blooper gives the Sox back the lead in extras. But it was in the bottom of the 10th when the A's walked it off to take the series win. The Sox lose this one 3-2. That's sports. We'll be right back.
I think tomorrow is Drew's perfect day. Warm, rain.
I'm excited for the rain and a warm day. I don't know when the storms will roll in, but I'm pretty excited myself.
Yeah, you know, it was nice to have some warm days without a lot of wind because we've had a lot of that here so far this season. Tomorrow we got wind again, so look for a 40-mile-per-hour wind gust tomorrow afternoon. But I think late in the day you've got some showers and thunderstorms. So I know you're off, so just kind of keep an eye on the forecast, especially if you're going to be out. So the first warn interactive radar brought to us by Rockford Glass and More. Nice and quiet out there this evening. Temperatures will be down into the low 50s for tonight. We're up to 80 tomorrow, though. Now, there will be some isolated showers and thunderstorms, especially northwest of Rockford by daybreak tomorrow. And then we'll keep a risk on our severe threat going into late tomorrow evening.
Thanks, Candace, and thank you for joining us. Have a great night.